Hi, this is our first tutorial on critical path analysis. In this topic, you'll be given a table like this one here, which shows you the things that you need to do, and certain tasks must be completed before others. We're going to use arrows and boxes for each letter. We're going to have boxes with 6 there. The top 3 boxes will have a start time, time taken for the job, and the finish time. We'll leave the other boxes blank, but those are for the float times that we'll work them out. You'll learn about that shortly. Now, often they do not have a particular start. Often that thing is not even there, nor do they have a finish. So we'll sort of ignore those at large. Then we're going to have a look at how we do our diagram. So make sure that the ones that have alternatives, B and C, must be completed. We've got to be careful with those. So we're going to start with B. Now, the 10 minutes has to follow task A, starting the project. So the 10 minutes always goes before the B. So we're going to start there, or that could be A, mentions the start or A. It's going to take 10 minutes for B, and also for C it's going to take 20 minutes. So to start, you go there, to C, that's 20 minutes. Now you can't, well, when you go to D, you have to finish B and C first. So D, I'll change the colour of the pen there. When we're doing D, we have to finish B and C first before we can do D. So both of those go to D, and the same for E, we have to finish B and C. So it's important that we have arrows on both directions. So then we've done that, and we put the times in. That was 20 for that one, that was 30 and 20. They go before, so 30 before D and 20 before E. Right, so that's a 30 there, and that's a 20 going there. And then finally, you have to polish and finish. That's task F. Task F is 40 minutes, so I'll put 40 there. And it must follow E. So this here is 40 minutes. And G must follow D and F. So when we go to G, which is 20 minutes, it has to follow both D and F. D and F. Right, so put the 20 there, 20 there. Now I've done a nice neat diagram over here to show it. Then we look at all the pathways. And so if you take the top pathway, 10, 30, 20, that gives us a pathway of 60. If you go B, start with A, B, E, F, G, that's going to take 90. A, C, D, G, it's going to take 70. And so 100 is the longest path, where it goes to A, C, E, F, G. Adding all those numbers up gives you 100. Because that's the longest pathway, that's the critical path, and that's where we start. So we're going to start with the critical path. You put the times in, the 20 minutes that it takes to do, to buy the materials, the 20 minutes for the next one. So you put those black numbers in first in the center. Right, the clock starts at 0, so that's where we're starting. 0 plus 20 is 20. Put the 20 over there, 20 plus 20, 40. Put the 40 in the next box, and so on. 100 minutes it's going to take. That's the longest path. We're going to use these boxes at the bottom to determine the float times, and we'll be working backwards. So we do the same for B, E, F. Now when you do B, E, F, notice you have to go backwards here. So we know the project finishes at 100, so we start there, and we take off the 20 to get 80. So it's important that we go backwards on these ones. So F, and we get this from here, finishes at 80, you take off 40 to get 40. E finishes at 40, you take off 40 to get 20. But B can start at any time. So we have got 10 there. That number doesn't have to go there. So we find that this one here doesn't precede anything, so you can do B there. We'll have a look at the next one, and I've got the times over here so we can see it as we do it. So G is 100, again 20, 80. Now does D have to follow? So we go back up to our diagram. D has to follow B and C. So we look at D, there's no D up there. So that can go any time, only 20, 30, 50. So that could start at 50 minutes, and that one there, 20 minutes. C, hold on, have I got the C time right? I've got the wrong number in there. So C here should be 20 because it takes 20 minutes, and that would be a 0, so we start there. Okay, then we go to the last path, which was BDG, and again you've got 180, you've got the 50 there, 50, 20, 30. B can start any time, it's not a requirement, so you've got 10 there. Now to work out the float times, what we do is we've got to work backwards. So we start 100 minus, and 100 minus 100 is 0, so there's no spare time there. In fact, your longest path, 80 minus 80 is 0. There's no float times at all in the longest path. They have to be done on time, and so there's our float times are there because there's no difference between each of those. However, the next one does have some float times, some spare times. So working backwards, 100 minus 20, 100 minus 100 is 0. There's no spare numbers there. No spare minutes. That starts at 80. There's nothing to spare there. This starts at 40. 40 minus 40 is 0, so there's nothing to spare. But here, this could have started at 20. 20 minus 10 is 10, so you've got 10 spare minutes. And so you could actually start there 10 minutes late. So that gives you your float times by working backwards. So let's have a look at this one. G, 100. We have to finish at 100. There's no spare minutes. 80. Now, this one here can start at 50. So if it doesn't have to be done till 80, then we have 80 minus 30 is 50. We have some spare float times there of 30 minutes. So 30 minutes spare there. Again, this one here can start at 50. So we've got 50 here, and we've got a spare 30 minutes. So if your first job gets held up, you can start C 30 minutes late and still finish on time. And again, we go here, start at 100, no difference, 0, 80. Here we've got a difference because this number must go here. We've got a difference of 30, like in the previous box, and that will give us 50. So we've got a float time of 20 minutes spare here. So, whoops, I go back there. I have to put 50 here, and that 50 goes here. We've got an extra 40 minutes to spare there. So those are our float times. So that's working out our float times. This is the first video. We need to practice doing that, and that's our critical path. Just a case of setting out and working through those boxes.